The events here took place when I was an 11-year-old girl on vacation with my family. My mother and younger brother and I went down to Port Elizabeth to visit some family. Being the only kids present, this meant we were more excited to play in the ocean than spend time indoors. My mom picked a sunny day. We packed our boogie boards and headed to the nearest beach with my grandma tagging along. My brother and I ran towards a set of stairs leading down to the beach. I stopped. There were eyes on me. I could sense it. Growing up in South Africa, you're always taught to be vigilant. Notice your surroundings. Notice people especially. I looked around the crowd trying to pinpoint exactly what was setting my radar off. Then I found it. Two men about 20 meters in front of me, about late 20s or early 30s. They were just frozen in place, staring at me with these big, toothy smiles on their faces. I returned a smile and a nod, acknowledging their presence, but also making them aware I saw them. Be friendly, not naive. Be polite, but don't trust. Just observing them, I felt unsettled. The crowd was moving all around them. They didn't speak to one another, and they only seemed to move as I glanced away. I was alarmed, but only made a mental note to keep an eye on them. I continued down the stairs and jumped into the soft sand. My brother and I waited for the adults to pick a spot to set up before we took off swimming. Some time went by after that. I saw the same men from earlier wade into the water quite some distance from us, and felt a bit silly for still worrying about them. Still though, I just couldn't shake that uneasiness. I got out and took a rest by my mom. I didn't see the men anywhere, but the feeling of having eyes on me never went away. I tried to chalk it up to paranoia and went back to the water after a few minutes. My brother had gotten out by now and started digging this magnificent sand pit, so I decided to use him as a landmark to determine my position in the water while riding the waves out. I did this a few times. Suddenly, goosebumps shot up my back. I looked around. I saw the same men were now just a few meters away from me, waving and beckoning me towards them. I was having fun up until then and hadn't noticed them approaching. Adrenaline set in as I saw them smiling once more. Their eyes seemed blank, insincere, and out of place with those over-the-top grins. I nervously grinned back and just shook my head at their invitation to come closer. I'm sure the fear was written all over my face though. As if to confirm my fears of their intentions, they started to immediately swim towards me. I knew I wouldn't be strong enough in the water to fight, run, or swim, and nobody was close enough to hear me call out for help. I was panicking when the water suddenly pulled me deeper into the sea. A big wave was coming. I placed my boogie board in position and started paddling. I was now further into the ocean than the creeps. The wave hit when they were about 1 meter away and took me right past them. I felt relieved for a split second, but then I felt a hand grabbing around my ankle and yanking hard. My heart caught in my throat. I kicked out of instinct. Fortunately, being sunscreen doused, I was slippery and managed to slip free of the hand. The wave then carried me all the way back to the beach. I was coughing with a mouthful of seawater, but scampered to my feet and ran to fetch my brother. I told him I'd race him back to Mom, and he was delighted for the challenge. I glanced back to see where the sea had just ejected me. The creeps were still standing where they were, just smiling and waving. I stayed at my mom's side until we finally packed up to head home. As we walked to our car, I looked over my shoulder. There they were, those two grown men, staring, smiling, and waving at the child they had just tried to grab, like nothing weird had ever happened. Then they turned around and just disappeared into the crowd. This has been happening over the last few months. My partner and I used to live in a studio apartment near the city when he decided it would be a great idea to get a Cairn Course puppy. Those dogs grow big and fast. We needed to move ASAP. We took this opportunity to move away from the city and closer to the beach, craving a more chill area. Well, we quickly found a place in the perfect area, 2 bedrooms and a yard for the puppy. It was great. I inspected it and the agent was very awkward, said we could take it straight away as there were no other applicants and pets were allowed. This was rare in our area during the pandemic. They said we could have the keys within a week. We snapped it up and moved in 3 weeks later. I had sent the property to my family, and my brother laughed as he informed me that the house used to be a massage parlor. One guess how he knew. I shrugged it off anyway. I'm all about energy and spaces, so I was quick to make it homely, and the puppy had her own yard. We could walk to the beach and had a great cafe around the corner. Some of our friends even lived quite close by. Everything felt really nice, at least for a little bit. A week after moving in, a cute old couple from the street over came to introduce themselves. Bless. The gentleman mentioned something about the distasteful activity that used to take place at the property, but it was just a passing comment. Apparently, the massage parlor had closed down 5 years ago. No worries, right? We settled in a bit more. My next task was the garden. One afternoon, I was walking back into the house from the car, in tack pants, dirty shirt, hair up, barefoot with a bag of soil over my shoulder. As I'm walking to the front door, I notice a man with a push bike, sunglasses, and half of his face covered in a balaclava type thing. It was pretty weird, but okay. He was just riding back and forth, eyeing me off. Now, due to past trauma, I have a sort of sixth sense for creepy dudes, and this got my attention straight away. I can hold my own. I'm 175 centimeters, and that's pretty tall for a girl. I made it a point to stop and stare back. "You right, mate?" He stopped right in front of me, pulled down his glasses, and straight up asked me for a massage. Nah, dude, no way I can help you. I wasn't scared, I was just caught off guard. The bag of soil on my shoulder was killing me. Also, what about my outfit screamed, "We'll give sexy massage"? Anyway, I rushed inside to my partner, who was conveniently taking a midday shower, and told him what happened. The dude was long gone by the time he dried off and ran outside. We spoke about the incident for the rest of the afternoon, perplexed but not worried, until I did a basic online search of our address to find the ads for the massage parlor still active. I requested it be taken down, along with saying it was now a residence and not a business. We move on until a week later. My partner works long days and I'm in between jobs due to the pandemic, but teach the occasional yoga class in our old area, mainly mornings and evenings, so I'm home alone during the day a lot. Anyway, a week later since the first incident, I'm coming home from teaching around midday, completely starving. As I walk up to the house, there's a car parked out front with a man inside. He smiles and waves at me. Weird, but whatever. I had put our, at this stage, huge dog out in the yard while I made lunch so she wouldn't steal it. Big mistake. There's a knock at the door. Usually if the puppy is inside, she'll go apeshit at anyone who isn't her mom or dad. I didn't have this alert though. I'm used to deliveries showing up out of nowhere, as my partner is always getting samples for work sent to the house. I casually go to answer the door. It's the guy from the car outside. As I open the door, he steps inside, pushing the door open against me as he steps in. Now, like I said, I'm a tall gal, but this dude towered over me. He was close enough I could see and smell his rotten teeth. Basically on top of me, I was in shock and asked what he wants. He smiled and asked to come inside. I tried to push the door closed, but the dude was large and prevented this. He proceeded to ask for, you guessed it, a massage, specifically from me. Now at this stage, my very active fight-or-flight response kicked in. I managed some real Hulk-type strength to physically push him out, along with shutting the door, all while screaming the wildest obscenities you can imagine. I locked the door and ran for my phone to call my partner, but first ran to the window to try and take a picture of the car or the man. Unfortunately, I was not quick enough. I called my partner, who called my dad who lived close. He came and hung out for a few hours. At first, I was fine, a bit shaken up, but due to past trauma and delayed reaction, I broke down an hour later into a full-blown anxiety attack. 2 weeks passed without any unwanted visitors. My partner had a 2-night interstate work trip coming up, which meant home alone again. Usually I'd love this. I absolutely love alone time to clean and dance and sing without any interruptions. I love my partner, but let's be honest, there's something so nice about alone time, especially when you've lived with someone for years. This was different though. I always feel safe with him. He's a big dude and a boxer for over half his life, but with the recent going-ons I was feeling uneasy. We organized for my dad to be on call, and I let our big baby bear sleep in the bed with me while he was away. I also kept a souvenir machete I'd picked up on a school trip at the door. I know, but hey, self-defense. All felt well until the first night. Now Chloe will growl at anything, but I only worry when her fur sticks up on her back. This means she's at alert. Anyway, first night alone, I'm dead asleep around 2 a.m. She starts growling. Sometimes she does this in her sleep, so I reached out to soothe her with a gentle stroke. I felt her fur stick up, and my ears were pricked by the sound of someone walking on the gravel that's outside my bedroom window. I froze as she kept growling, eventually turning into a full-blown aggressive bark as she jumped off the bed and ran to the window and jumped on the ledge. The blinds were still closed, so I couldn't see anything. Whoever was out there was scared off by Chloe's incessant barking as she returned to the bed and plonked herself down on top of me in some sort of weird show of protection. I called my dad and he said to call back if it happened again. The second night I decided to stay at my mom's place. Took Chloe with me too. My partner returned from his work trip aware of the late night scare and told me he had emailed the property agent telling them all of the creepy incidents along with the internet ad we'd found while he was away. He was mad. They said they had no idea the massage business had ever existed. Bullshit. A week or so passed without incident, but then I developed anxiety attacks while home alone and a mad case of insomnia. Any noise would send me into a self-defense episode, machete in hand. At this stage, it had become a real issue. We decided to start asking more neighbors, and the worst was confirmed. Turns out the massage parlor was a full-blown brothel that had been shut down by police. One neighbor told us how she had been physically assaulted by someone attending the business, and she played a big part in getting it shut down after that. We even found out that the last tenant had the same issue as us, resulting in her moving her and her children out of the house. What the fuck? We decided to call the police to see if anything else could be done, or just to get more info. They were actually very helpful. They confirmed the whole brothel thing and told us to document any more weird stuff. They made reports for trespassing for the 2 previous freaks, and said if we ever felt like we wanted to move out, they would help us, as it could be pretty hard and expensive to break a lease where we live. It was literally the day after this. The florist who owns the shop on the corner that backs onto our house asked if we were home the previous night. We'd formed a neighborhood watch and she was part of it. We weren't. She informed us a man had been on our property looking in all our windows and knocking at the door for about half an hour. That night we heard footsteps in the gravel again, and a knock at the door too. At this stage we were just over it. We called the real estate agent again, who still denied any knowledge of the brothel until we mentioned our contact with the police. They quickly insisted they pay for new security doors and lighting if we were to stop all contact with the police. We agreed, but had no intention of not calling the police again. Turns out they knew all along. It's law in our country to let new tenants know of any previous crimes committed at a premises, which they didn't. Shady as fuck. That explains why the house had been so cheap and readily available. We have been in COVID lockdown now for 2 months on and off, which may have deterred any creeps from coming back, but I still get knocks at the door during the day which I ignore. My camera roll is jam-packed of every and any car's license plate that parks out the front. We have made some wonderful neighbors who constantly check in on us, and the little old man down the road even made us a sign for our front door, bless him. Safe to say though, we will not be renewing our lease once the year is up. The following story happened to me a few years ago. In hindsight, I was a lot more naive, and I've grown a lot since, becoming more aware of the risks of using social media without privacy settings. A few years ago, I left my home country to start my master's course and a new life halfway across the world. I don't want to share the name of the country I live in now for privacy reasons, sorry. Beside my partner, their family, and my housemates, I didn't really know anyone in the area. The first few months were quite hard. I had never lived more than a 3-hour drive from my parents, so being 9,000 miles away from everything I'd ever known and loved was quite difficult. I found myself using social media a lot more than ever. Facebook, Instagram. It was such a comforting feeling scrolling through my phone and seeing familiar faces, watching stories of good friends hanging out in places we all used to visit together. Getting to chat with others in my native language, it made me feel less lonely, and quite frankly, I enjoyed sharing pictures and stories of my new city with friends and family as well. It was just a low-effort way of keeping in touch, and it made me feel like I was still a part of their daily lives. A side note, I'm not a social media influencer. I don't have a large following. Almost all people I know personally, and at the time I followed everyone back, thinking it was some sort of unspoken internet courtesy. I mainly posted pictures of landmarks, beaches, old buildings, anything I thought looked interesting and that my friends back home would enjoy seeing, since where I live now is heaps different from my hometown. One day I noticed I had a DM request from an account I did not recognize. It read, "Hello Lynn, follow me?" The picture was nothing out of the ordinary, a black and white photograph of someone's back standing on a cliff or mountain. Initially, I almost wrote it off as a bot, but when I clicked on the profile, I was surprised by the content. Beautiful black and white film photographs of different places around the world. There were no pictures where I could make out a face, and the about me was a very simple camera emoji and a name. Since I liked the content though, I decided to respond with a message first. "Hey, I really love your photography. I followed you." I received a reply almost instantly. "Thank you." They then asked how I was doing. I asked them what kind of camera they used. It was such an innocent, ordinary conversation that I thought nothing of it. Well, the very next day, I woke up to a row of notifications all from the same user. They had liked every single one of my photos, going years back into my feed, and sent me more messages. In one, they asked how I was enjoying X, the city I had moved to not long ago. I gave a short one-word answer and a smiley face for a good measure. When they asked what area I was living in, I instantly felt weird and decided not to keep the exchange going. I left them on read. This caused a flood of messages from their end, now apologizing for asking and explaining they had asked because they swear they had seen me before and wanted to know if I worked at Anytime Fitness, at a borough in my city, which I did not. Thinking this would end the conversation, I replied with a, "Sorry, I don't think you have the right person. I don't work there." A few moments later, I got another message asking, "Are you sure?" I didn't reply, so they sent another. "You wouldn't lie to me, would you?" Then another. "Where do you work?" One after another. At this point, I started to get anxious. I hate confrontation and used to get very anxious over any little altercation where I might have to upset someone. I unfollowed and blocked the account. I mentioned it to one of my housemates and my partner, both of which said it was just some internet troll with too much time on their hands, and I'd done good by blocking them. After about a week or so, though, I received another strange DM request. The profile picture was a screenshot of a scene from a Bunnell film, and the profile only had one single photo, the same screenshotted image. The message read, "Why did you unfollow me?" I blocked that account immediately. After this, I started receiving a wave of messages from other fake accounts on all of my social media. The messages became more and more aggressive, calling me a liar, a cunt. Randomly, I'd start getting ones asking how my day was or if I had watched a certain movie the day before. I tried contacting Facebook and Instagram, but honestly, I don't think anything came from it, except maybe those individual accounts being terminated. I changed all of my privacy settings to private, but the messages still continued. I was so overwhelmed, I wondered why someone would go out of their way to do this to me. I had just moved country, started school, and was trying so hard to start over somewhere so foreign to me. I had never experienced any type of bullying back home, because I didn't have any enemies. Who would want to do this to me? My partner suggested I screenshot the messages and get the police involved, but back then I was too nervous to do anything. I just let it be. I figured that the police would just ignore a foreigner, or tell me to grow a backbone. This game of blocking and deleting profiles continued until my partner, seeing how upset this was making me, messaged one of the accounts telling them to leave me alone and that they were contacting the police if they continued. The account was either deleted or blocked my partner because it disappeared after that, and things went quiet. After a few weeks, I decided to reactivate my account on Facebook and return to Instagram, hoping things had cooled down. It seemed they had. No requests, no messages. It had been almost 2 months since the start of this whole ordeal, and I was now message-free. I was in a much better place. I had made some friends, was enjoying my studies, my job. The incident became nothing but a creepy memory. Then though, one day, I was out grocery shopping at a shopping center, a 15-minute walk away from my home. I felt my phone buzz in my pocket suddenly. My hands were full with grocery bags, so I ignored it until I got home. When I opened the message, it was from another unfamiliar account, this time with a black and white profile picture of just an eye. Immediately my heart sank and my stomach started to turn. I started thinking to myself, is this the same person after all this time? No way. My body started getting hot and a bit shaky. I opened the message. All it said was, "Hi friend." They had sent a link to a clip from Back to the Future. I was so confused as to why they were messaging me, let alone sending me a random movie clip. Then I remembered what I was wearing, a Back to the Future t-shirt. I blocked the user right away and deleted my profile for good this time. After that day, I never heard from them again. It's been a few years since then. I still don't have an Instagram account and only use Facebook to keep in touch with old classmates. I never post anything personal. In the end, I never figured out who it was that was messaging me, if it was the same person, why they were doing this, and worst of all, if they really had been watching me. I don't know if it was a strange prank or pure coincidence, and in hindsight, it seems silly how much it all got to me. But please, not to sound like an overprotective mother, but be careful what you share. When you tag locations, who you follow, you gotta stay safe out there.